All right, so recall that the general linear equation can be written y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. So what we're going to do now is write linear equations of lines with given characteristics. So for example, our first example, let's write a linear equation with a slope of 5 and a y-intercept at -1/2. Okay, so when I say write the equation of a line, I want it in this form, y equals mx plus b. So I'm just going to write that down, y equals mx plus b. Okay, so our job is to figure out what the slope is and what the y-intercept is. In this problem, I'm nice enough to tell you both the slope and the y-intercept. So the slope is 5, so I'm just going to put 5 in for the m, and the y-intercept is -1/2. So instead of plus -1/2, I'm just going to write minus 1/2. So the equation of this line is y equals 5x minus 1/2. All right, for a second example, I want to write a linear equation that has a slope of 2/3 and it passes through the point -4, 1. So let's start out by trying to graph this line. So it goes through the point -4, 1, which is here, and it has a slope of 2/3. So remember, the slope is vertical change over horizontal change, or the change in y over the change in x. So from this dot, I would go up 1, 2, and I go over 1, 2, 3. So I should have a point here, up 2, over 3. And then I could go up 2 and over 3 more. So 1, 2, 3. I have a point here. And of course I could connect those with a line. All right, we want to write the equation of this line. So recall the equation of a line is y equals mx plus b. So our job is to figure out what the slope is and what the y-intercept is. I tell you the slope, y equals 2/3 x, but I don't tell you the y-intercept this time. So let's just put b. Okay, how can we figure out the y-intercept? So if we look at the graph, we can see that it's probably between, let's see, 1, 2, 3. It looks like it's between 3 and 4 somewhere, but we don't know exactly where. Let's see if we can figure it out. So I do tell you another point on this line. So I give you an x value and a y value. So let's plug in -4 for our x and 1 for our y, and that should allow us to figure out what the b is. So I'm going to put a 1 in for the y, and I'm going to put a -4 for my x. And now I can solve that equation for b. Let's simplify. I'm going to put a 1 underneath my -4. If I multiply these fractions, I get a -8 on the top and a 3 on the bottom. So 1 is equal to -8 over 3 plus b. I need to add 8/3 to both sides. So I'll have 1 plus 8/3 is equal to my y-intercept. Okay, let's add these fractions together. In order to add fractions, I need a common denominator. So let's make this 1 be a 3/3. 3/3 is 1. So now I can add and get 11/3. Okay, so my final answer would be y equals, my slope was 2/3, so 2/3 x plus 11/3. 11/3 is almost 4. 12/3 would be 4. So it's almost equal to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we see it goes through about where it should there. So it makes sense graphically with what we have here. Okay, in the third example, I want you to write the equation of a linear function that has a slope of 2 and a 0 at 3. Okay, this word 0 is synonymous with the x-intercept. or it's also called a root. So all three of these words mean the same thing: the zero of a function, the root of a function, or the x-intercept of a line. They all mean the same thing. All right, so our linear function has a slope of 2 and a 0 at 3. So the x-intercept, 0 means x-intercept, the x-intercept is at 3, and it has a slope of 2. So if it has a slope of 2, I will go up 2 over 1, and I could go this way, so I could go down 2 and over 1. I'll get a dot there. All right, so let's see if we can write this equation. So I'm going to use function terminology. So f of x equals mx plus b. F of x is the same thing as y. All right, so I know what the slope is, so let's plug that in. F of x is equal to 2x plus b. All right, my job is to figure out the y-intercept, or the b. I don't tell you the y-intercept, but I do tell you another point. I tell you this point 3, 0. So I can plug in a 3 for my x and a 0 for my y. So let's do that. Let's solve for b. 2 times 3 is 6. So I got 0 is equal to 6 plus b. Subtract 6 from both sides, and I get b equals negative 6. So my y-intercept would be negative 6. So my final answer is f of x equals 2x minus 6. Let's make sure this makes sense. So if my slope is 2, I can go down 2 more and over 1. I can go down 2 more over 1 more. I get that. And my y-intercept is at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, negative 6. Exactly where it should be. All right, in our last example, I want you to write the equation of a line that passes through these 2 points. Okay, so I've graphed this line over here for you. So our line passes through the point 2, negative 5, and negative 1, 3. All right, so our goal is to write the equation of this line in the form y equals mx plus b. I need to know the slope and the y-intercept. In this example, I don't tell you the slope, and I don't tell you the y-intercept. All right, so can we figure out what the slope is? We can look at the graph, and we can count. So my slope should be negative. It's decreasing. So if I start at this dot, I have to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I go down 8, and I go right 1, 2, 3. So down 8, right 3. So my change in y is negative 8. My change in x is 3. So my slope should be negative 8/3. So y equals negative 8/3 x plus b. Let's check that algebraically. So let's find the slope using the 2 points. So slope equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. y2 minus y1, that would be 3 minus negative 5 over x2 minus x1, that's negative 1 minus 2. 3 minus negative 5, that's 3 plus 5, that's 8. Negative 1 minus 2 is negative 3, and we get negative 8/3. So you can figure this out algebraically using the formula, or you can graph it and just count how far you go down, how far you go right. All right, so we know the slope. Now we have to figure out the y-intercept. I don't tell you the y-intercept, but it looks like it might be somewhere between 0 and 1. Let's check and make sure that's really true. All right, so I need to plug in an x and a y in order to figure out what the b is. So here I have two ordered pairs. I can choose either one I want. Let's use this guy. So if I use this point, I can plug 2 in for x, -5 for my y. So -5 is equal to -8/3. 2, I'll go ahead and put a 1 under it. So I plug in a 2 for my x, -5 for my y. Simplify, I get -16/3. I should add 16/3 to both sides. So I have -5/1 plus 16/3 plus b. In order to add fractions, I need a common denominator. So let's make this -15/3 plus 16/3. 16 minus 15 is 1, so I get b is equal to 1/3. So my final answer then would be y equals -8/3 x plus 1/3. And that makes sense. My y-intercept looks like it's at 1/3. Alright. What if we had chosen this point? So let's work it out using that point. We better get the same answer if we do it that way. Alright, so this time I'm going to use this point. So for my y, I'm going to plug in a 3. And for my x, I'm going to plug in a -1. I simplify, I get 8/3 plus b. I'm going to subtract 8/3 from both sides. So 3/1 minus 8/3, not plus, equals b. I need a common denominator, so I'm going to make this 9/3 minus 8/3 equals b. 9 minus 8 is 1, so I get b equals 1/3, and I get the same answer as I did before. So it doesn't matter which point you use, just make sure you choose one single point and you take your x and your y from the same point. Don't take an x from this point and a y from that point. All right, so here are 3 practice problems. I want you to write the equation of a line with the given characteristics. So pause the video, work these out on your own, and then we'll go over the solutions together. All right, let's try this first one. So my slope is -2 and it's going through the point 5, 3. So I want to write the equation in the form y equals mx plus b. I tell you the slope, so let's just go ahead and put that in. I don't tell you the y-intercept, but I do tell you this point, so I can plug in an x and a y value. So my y is 3, my x is 5. I simplify, -2 times 5 is -10. Add 10 to both sides, I get b is equal to 13. So my final answer is y equals -2x plus 13. All right. Let's check and make sure this is really the true solution. Let's plug this point into this equation and see if it's true. So if I put a 5 in for my x and a 3 in for my y, do I get a true solution? So if I put a 5 here, that's -10 plus 13. -10 plus 13 is 3, which is what y is, so that works. That's true. All right, let's try the next one. My slope is 4/5, and I have a root of -1. So y equals mx plus b. I tell you the slope. So y equals 4/5 x plus b. but I don't tell you the y-intercept. However, I do tell you this point, so we're able to plug in an x and a y value. If the root is -1, then that means we have the point -1, 0 on the line. That's the x-intercept. So my x would be -1 and my y would be 0. All right, let's plug those points in. So y is 0. My root is -1. I simplify. I get 0 is equal to -4/5 plus b. Add 4/5 to both sides. And I get a y-intercept of 4/5. So my final answer would be y equals 4/5 x plus 4/5. Let's check and make sure that's really true. So if I plug in this point to this equation, it should be true. So if I put -1 in for my x, I'll get -4/5 plus 4/5. That would equal 0. So that's true. Third example, equation of a line that goes through these 2 points. So here I don't tell you the slope or the y-intercept. So our first goal is to figure out what the slope is. So slope is y2 minus y1. So -2 minus 7. And 3 minus -1. -2 minus 7 is -9. 3 minus -1 is 4. So my slope is -9/4. Y equals -9/4x plus b. All right, I can pick either point I want, plug it in for x and y. Let's use this point. So I'm going to plug a -2 for my y. And for the x, I'm going to put a 3. Simplify that. I have -2 is equal to -27/4 plus b. I'm going to add 27/4 to both sides. -2/1 plus 27/4 equals b. In order to add fractions, I need a common denominator. So I'm going to multiply by 4 on the top, 4 on the bottom. And I'll have -8/4 plus 27/4 plus b. So b equals, let's see, 27 minus 8 is 19. So I have 19/4. All right, so my final answer after all that work would be y equals, my slope is -9/4 x plus 19/4. Final answer. All right, let's check and make sure that really works. So I'm going to take this other point, plug it in here, and see if it is true. So I'm going to put a -1 for the x and a 7 for the y. So I have 7 equals -9/4 times -1 plus 19/4. Okay, let's see if that's really true. So that'll be 7 equals positive 9/4 plus 19/4. Is that true? 19 plus 9 is 28. So is 7 really equal to 28/4? 28 divided by 4 is 7, so that is true. So we can be confident we got the right answer.